Last year I lost 54 pounds, and in this video I want to talk about some things I learned. I tried some different diets. I tried intermittent fasting, carnivore, and what ultimately worked out for me the most consistently was high volume, low calorie. So I kind of wanted to make this kind of like a little journal entry for me too, just to kind of remember things that I learned, things that worked, things that didn't work, a lot of trial and error. Also, I didn't go to the gym. I did, 4 weeks or so, but for the entirety of the year, I essentially didn't go, and still lost the weight. So I kind of wanted to talk about how that happened. So stay tuned if that interests you. The first thing I want to say is that when I started this in November 28th of 2023, before that, I was on a traditional standard diet. What do they call it? The standard American diet, where I was just eating a lot of fast food, or when I did cook, it was things like spaghetti, things that are not super nutrient dense. So I feel like that's where most people are probably coming from. If you don't put effort into your diet, then the default setting in America tends to be fast food, and when you do cook, it includes a lot of boxed meals and things like that, maybe frozen dinners, things that are, in my opinion, not super healthy. They'll get you by in a pinch, but you shouldn't rely on them for most of your diet. So before the start date of my intermittent fasting, that's what I was eating. So that's kind of a baseline. I was 310 pounds, and I decided that I'm not going to track calories. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to not eat dinner. So this was also a convenience thing. I would oftentimes work late, and then I would come home and I would be like, I got to cook dinner. Didn't have to do that. Didn't have to buy as many groceries either, because I was eating out breakfast and lunch. So this was also kind of convenient for me at the time. And it worked for me for a while. As you can see, I did this for 7.5 months, and I only lost 20 pounds. And the last 4 or so of those months were plateau, like zero weight loss. I continued to do it, I think, even though I wasn't getting results, because one, I didn't know what else to do. It had worked for me before. It's easy to read things online too, where people say, well, if the diet's not working for you this month, it'll work for you next month. Just stick with it. So I kind of had that mindset. Also, I did enjoy some benefits that were not weight related. I was sleeping better. I felt sharper mentally. I think if you're not always digesting food, like your stomach's not always digesting food, there's something healthy about that. Like sometimes you go through periods where you're fasting, and I think your body's meant to do that. I think there are benefits to that. However, my goal was weight loss. I needed to get this number down. So after about 7.5 months, I was like, okay, this is not working. To meet my goals, how can I improve them? That is when I discovered the carnivore diet. Now, I discovered this on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of people have seen carnivore content on YouTube. It seemed very attractive to me because I like meat. Like, that's not a hard sell to me, because I like steak, I like bacon, I like eggs. And also they say you don't have to count calories. I was still, at this point, had not been counting calories. So I was like, okay, well, this is not too big of a jump. I felt like once I started counting calories, it was game over or something. I don't know. I had a weird mindset about that. But I did this for 5 weeks. 5 weeks is all I could take. The first 3 weeks were nice. I didn't have a lot of the run into the bathroom problems that people report in the first 3 weeks. And even in the last 2 weeks, I just felt bad. It wasn't like running to the bathroom all the time. I felt bad. I was low energy. I didn't like feeling low energy. So therefore I stopped it. I was eating 3 meals per day, I was not intermittent fasting anymore. That was completely out of the window, or out of my diet, once I started carnivore. Because if you listen to YouTubers like Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Shawn Baker, and Dr. Anthony Chaffee, those were kind of like the 3 YouTube doctors I was listening to the most, they said you don't need to count calories, just eat until you're comfortably stuffed, which I was doing. And for the first 2 weeks, I think it was the first 3 weeks, I lost the 11 pounds. The last 2 weeks of that, I plateaued. At the same time, I was feeling bad, so I don't know if there was a correlation there, but I was eating a lot. I mean, I imagine if I was counting my calories, it was 3,000 calories or more a day. And, you know, a lot of people say that when you lose quickly, you know, when you start something like the carnivore or keto diet where you're cutting carbs, that you're losing water weight. So I thought as soon as I stopped carnivore, I would just gain that back, that 11 pounds. But it never came back. It was kind of interesting. I'm curious if you're watching this video, if you've done something like this before. What was your experience with that? Did that water weight come right back? Because mine never did. I mean, it stayed off. So then what ultimately worked for me was high volume, low calorie. I did this from only recently, September of 2024 to November, and it ended around Thanksgiving time because I didn't want to be antisocial basically at the holidays. And also I at that time I'd been watching a lot of Mike Israetel, which he has that YouTube channel, Renaissance Periodization, and he is an exercise scientist. I really like his content because he takes a scientific approach to diet, lifestyle, health. It was a nice transition from the carnivore diet, which seemed almost like religious, like people again saying, well, if it's not working for you this month, just stay at it and it'll work for you next month. I didn't really like that approach to things. I like the data and science approach that Mike Israetel gives or kind of teaches in his videos. How to know when a diet has stopped working and you need to tweak it or something. That seemed more actionable rather than just continue and cross your fingers that it works next month. So what worked for me, and it was actually the easiest, a lot easier than, well, I'll go ahead and explain what I was doing. So I was aiming for 2,100 calories a day. That means I'm calorie counting now. I was eating most of my meals. There was some variation, obviously, but most of my meals I was eating oatmeal in the morning. That was a convenience thing. I wanted something quick and easy to make in the mornings. Carnivore, you had to wake up early enough to cook, like bacon and eggs. So inconvenient, and so much kitchen cleaning, and then you come home after work and your kitchen, I mean, just the whole, I live in an apartment, the entire apartment just smells like bacon grease. It's just always, and it's just, I got sick of that, you know. So oatmeal, I can make it quick and easy. It's also super cheap. At the time I was focusing on paying off some debt. That really helped. Save some money on breakfast. And then oftentimes I was going to Panera. There's not a whole lot of healthy like drive-through options here in where I live, but Panera is here, and I was getting the pick 2 and then the lowest calorie 2 options. It was like the tuna salad sandwich, the half size, you know, the pick 2, so you get the half sandwich, and then you get the half salad. I was getting the Mediterranean greens with grains with chicken. So I was trying to, you know, make sure I was getting enough protein, but you know, Panera's not cheap either. So it was like $15 per trip to Panera. So, but it was good. It was filling. It got me through my work day. And then when I got home, I would focus on making something high volume, low calorie. So what is that? So an example of that, one of my favorite recipes that I tried was zucchini noodles with turkey, Italian sausage, and marinara sauce, and then I would put Parmesan cheese on it. That's an example. Things like that where you're substituting noodles or carbs for a veggie. So like cauliflower rice, I would do a lot of cauliflower rice stir fries. Things like that where it's like I could eat plenty and I would get full and it wouldn't be that many calories. There's like hardly any calories in zucchini and cauliflower. So this gave me the most consistent results. I was losing weight every week, which was very reassuring. Like when you're doing this stuff and like you're struggling, especially when I was intermittent fasting, you're just sitting there hungry. You're just hungry at night and you're like, I'm not eating. And you're just doing that night after night after night. And then you step on the scale and nothing's changed. It's frustrating. Over here, I could have, like that dinner, that high volume, low calorie dinner. But then I would also have room in my calorie budget for like a Halo Top ice cream, which was like 300 calories, which was, that just made it so much more sustainable, having that little treat at the end of the day. And also, those aren't cheap either. I noticed that the Nick's has a low calorie ice cream option. They have a lot more variety of flavors, at least at my local grocery store. In my opinion, tastes better. But now I have a Ninja Creamy, and I make all that stuff at home, so I can save a lot of money. Because those Nick's ice cream, if they're not on sale, they're like $6.50 per pint. And I was eating 1 pint per sitting. The whole pint's like 300 or 400 calories. So way cheaper to get a Ninja Creamy if you're doing that like every night, like I am, or like I was. I'm not doing that right now. Another thing I learned from Dr. Mike Israetel is the concept of maintenance periods. So that's kind of what I was doing. I was like, okay, the holidays are coming up. I'm going to maintain. I'm not going to let myself gain anything, but I'm going to maintain. And I was able to achieve that. And I still haven't gained anything. I'm still at 256 as of yesterday morning or whatever. So again, I didn't go to the gym. Now I do have a fairly active job. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm super active, but I do stoneworking. I like working a shop and I'm like walking around. I'm on my feet. Every now and again, picking up a stone, putting it down, or just handling equipment. So I don't have a sedentary job or lifestyle, but I'm also not, I'm probably not getting my heart rate up as much as I should. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like this is probably a good average. Like I feel like a lot of you guys probably are in a similar situation as me as far as activity level or whatever. I don't know if I had had a sedentary like office job, if that would have impacted this. I'm sure it would have, because I was getting like 6,000 to 8,000 steps just on a work day. I had the tracker on my phone. So anyway, if your goal in 2025 is to lose some weight, I hope this helps. There's a whole lot of high volume, low calorie recipes out there. I recommend searching on YouTube. The YouTube channel Will Tennyson, he kind of introduced me to the idea of the low calorie ice cream. And I think he got it from Greg Doucette, I believe. So all these resources are you can learn from. There's a lot of noise out there though, so just try to make sure that what you're getting into is actually what is the right steps to achieve your goals, because you can get into the weeds of like, I'm not eating seed oils, I'm not eating I'm only eating organic, I'm only eating all of these things, but at the end of the day it really comes down to like calories. Now if you're talking about longevity and stuff, I mean, I'm sure like avoiding processed foods and all that is, and avoiding Splenda. I eat so much Splenda now, but avoiding Splenda, things like that is probably good for your health in the long term. But in the short term, I mean, when you're obese, you got to get that number down. That kind of trumps the other stuff, I think. I'm not a doctor though. I'm not a doctor. So anyway, this was my experience. I hope this is helpful to somebody. If you want me to go into more depth about any of these, please leave a comment down below. I made a whole journal entry in my phone almost daily when I was on the carnivore diet, kind of explaining like what I ate that day and how I felt. There were some foods that just made me feel like junk. I know Jimmy Dean sausage was one of them. One more note about the carnivore diet. I did read Dr. Shawn Baker's book on the carnivore diet. It was really interesting. I think there are a lot of therapeutical, if that's even a word, I don't even know what I'm saying, effects, restorative effects of the carnivore diet. I think people with like joint problems. I think one big takeaway from doing the carnivore diet, I think a lot of people are too scared of meat. I think meat, protein is like one of the main food groups that you should be consuming, and If you want to be healthy, you shouldn't have any shortage of protein in your diet. I think that that people say that meat causes like heart disease. I don't believe that personally. I learned that heart disease only existed started in the 1890s, if the data is accurate, and meat's been being consumed way longer than the 1890s. So you can look into that if you want to. That could be a bunch of baloney, I don't know, but I think that protein is not something you should be scared of in your diet, and even fatty protein, I don't think you should be scared of it. That's one thing I learned from the carnivore diet. Intermittent fasting, I learned that fasting every now and again, I think really helps your mental clarity, and I think that was the biggest benefit from that, honestly. I mean, I did lose a little bit of weight, but the biggest benefit was like the mental clarity. And also I did have some minor IBS symptoms, I think, before I started any of this, and the intermittent fasting definitely had a huge improvement on that. Which makes sense. If you're just eating a bunch of junk, you're probably not going to digest it well. But anyway, I think that's all I want to get into this video. It's probably getting a little bit too long. If you have any questions for me, put them in the comments. I'll be happy to make a follow-up video. But this channel is usually not this kind of content, so I don't know if there'll be much of an audience for it. But I wanted to make this video for myself. Anyway, have a blessed day.